Hi, everybody. Hey, today I want to tell you guys about an activity and a box that I've used many times in my life to get me through my hardest places. I think this is a great activity we can do not only for ourselves, but we can do this with our children, with our spouses, our significant others, our best friends, and we can just do it for ourselves. It's a great, great activity. It promotes healing and it gives us an inspirational way and an activity to pull ourselves out of those dark and trying times. And I think this is just a great way to share with our families right now when we're having such a difficult time and we're all kind of trapped together, because there will be times in our lives when we don't have someone else to lean on. There will be times when we have to push our clouds away, when we have to pull ourselves out of the darkest places. And this activity and this box, this When Skies Are Gray box, does just that. And I think it's just so powerful. It's powerful to do as a family because we teach our children, as you get older and you go on in life on your own, use this, employ this technique to get yourself through hard times and start grabbing those things that you need. So let's get right to it. It's called the When Skies Are Gray box. And what it is a box full of things that will inspire you and encourage you in your darkest days to keep going. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I'm going to go through my box with you guys and share some of the things that I've collected over my lifetime that really, really helps me in my darkest days. And a box that's full of things that on more than one occasion, quite frankly, has probably saved my life. So without ado, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. My box, which I keep saying will be that one day I'm going to decorate it, it's just a guest shoe box. So I keep saying I'm going to put a cover on it. I'm going to make something cute that says When Skies Are Gray, maybe put a storm cloud on it or something, but I haven't done that yet. So it doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be full of things that will inspire you and give you motivation on those dark days when you're trying to pull yourself out of a really hard place. And so let's get right into my box. I have a lot of things in here. I've acquired them over the course of my life. And for those of you who've read my book or followed my story or subscribed to my blog, you know that I've survived a lot in my life. And most of us have. Most of us don't get through life and without realizing that it's not easy. And so one of the first things, let's see here, that I pulled off the top here is this bracelet. And this is actually called a Lokai bracelet. And if you look at it, you can see that there's a white bead up here and a black bead down here. And what this bracelet represents is the highs and lows of life. So the white bead is actually infused with water from Mount Everest, which is the highest point in the world. And the black bead is infused with mud from the Dead Sea, which is seen as the lowest point in the world. And so this bracelet is a reminder that life is about balance, because we typically have very few high highs and very few low lows in our life. And most of life is made up of the in-between. So it's about finding that balance. I love this. I wear this all the time. That's the other thing about the When Skies Are Gray box is you don't have to just keep it tucked away somewhere. Mine is out all the time. I have stuff in here I use all the time, but I keep it in there just in case I need to grab it on a dark day and remind myself. So I love my Lokai bracelet. You can get these anywhere. It's spelled Lokai, and I just love what they stand for. So that's one piece of what is in my box. Another, here's a powerful one. I actually have a friend on Instagram. He's an Instagram poet. Like most of my followers on Instagram, I've never met him, but he is a wonderful, inspirational human being. And one day we were chatting back and forth, and I said to him that I just wanted to give up. I said, you know, I felt pretty hopeless about things, and I didn't feel like things were ever going to get better in my life. And so he was encouraging me and telling me that my words speak to people and that doors would open at the right time for me. And so then finally he shared with me that at a really, really rough point in his life that he actually was going to take his own life. And he said that reading one of my posts actually made him change his mind. And that's really powerful. And in that moment, initially I said, well, I'm glad that my words provided you a little inspiration, but that doesn't really, I don't know, like I just, at that point, it still wasn't making much of a difference to me. And I think I wasn't really grasping the fact that he was serious. And then I'm going to cover his face here so you can't see who he is. But I actually printed out this part of the message that we were having. And he said, it doesn't matter. You helped me. And he said, I unloaded my gun. So I'm covering his face here because he is a pretty well-known poet, I think. And so the fact that he literally had a loaded gun and was going to take his life, and that somehow, whatever the post was, that my words inspired him to keep going and trying, that's powerful. And that really spoke to me on that day. That said to me unequivocally, it's not about me. And my survival and the things that I've really, really survived. I, as you all know, survived sexual abuse my entire childhood. And that unhealed trauma led to many, many mistakes in my life, addictions and self-destruction. And eventually I was able to heal and go into treatment and find peace and recovery. And it just really made me realize maybe my entire purpose on this planet is about helping other people. And really about my survival was to give someone else hope. And that put me in a different place. So I've kept this message for so long because if that's my purpose, then that's my purpose. And I want to help all the people I can. So on my hard days, I remember that it's not about me. It's not about my struggle. It's about what I can do to help someone else. So this is something powerful in my box. It really speaks to me. Another thing in my box, this is just something, we all get emotional, but I was having a day, and at some point I had written on a tablet, you will survive this too. And I wrote a quote from Nietzsche, that which doesn't kill me makes me stronger. I put, I will rise up here and let go, let God. As you can see, this thing has been crumbled up. It's been folded. It's like gone through it, but I kept it ultimately just to remind myself that I've had dark days before and I've gotten through it and I survived. And so when I have a bad day, I realize I'll survive this too. And I keep this in there just to remind me, because it's easy to get caught up in our pain. It's easy to get focused and fixated on everything that's wrong. And every storm eventually passes. So I kept that to remind me of that. Another thing I have here in my box, this is really important to me. For those of you who read my book, you'll recognize this guy. Before I wrote my book in 2002, I had weight loss surgery and I weighed almost 400 pounds, and I had been that size for many, many years. And so I went into the hospital thinking I'm just going to have this weight loss surgery. I'll be home in a few days. And that's not how it went. And I ended up on life support. I died in recovery. And so they told my parents every night, she's not going to live through the night. You need to make her plans. And they tried to take me off of life support a couple times. And again, I would quit breathing and get put back on a ventilator to breathe for me. And eventually, obviously, I made it. That was 18 years ago. But when I came home from the hospital, my son was 6 or 7 at the time. And he had gone shopping with my mom, and he had picked out this mama bear and baby bear. And the little bear says, I love mom. I write about him in my book, and I have a picture of him in my book. And I took this thing with me everywhere. You can see it is well worn. Mama bear has no eyes or nose or mouth, and baby bear has lost pretty much everything too. This thing has been carried around by puppies and everything else, but I've taken it with me whenever I travel. I have it with me because it just reminds me of what I was fighting for. It reminds me that my son, who's a grown man now, 25 years old, but he really related to this mama bear with him. And so it just reminds me that, I literally, the doctors had even given up on me and told my parents, plan her funeral, she's not going to survive this, but I survived it and I'm still here. So on those darkest days, I hold on to this. This thing has absorbed a lot of tears. You can believe that. But it gets me through. It gets me through. So definitely a big piece of my, When Skies Are Gray box. This is something that I keep this in a bag, and this is so amazing and powerful for me. This is my great, great, great grandmother's Bible. And obviously, it's been worn, it's been carried by many hands. The pages just are filled with things that were earmarked and pages that were bent down and little notes and different things in here. And I just look at this and you think, my great, great, great grandma, the things that this woman had to have gone through to survive. We all know that women didn't have it easy in this country for a long time. And so when I think about the women who lived during this era and all the things they saw and survived, just holding this and imagining all the prayers that were probably said holding this Bible, all the hopes and dreams and heartbreaks and grief that went through the hands of all the women who have held this Bible, it gives me strength on my darkest days. It gives me strength to know these people fought, these women battled, these women survived, and they paved the way. And I just get a lot from that. I really get a lot of peace and motivation and inspiration from this. And so I love this. So this has always been in my When Skies Are Gray box, because I figure if they could survive and they could make it through the things in their life that felt as difficult as the things feel in our world today, if they can get through those. I mean, we're talking about many, many years of women, but they lived through the Great Depression. They lived through Pearl Harbor. They lived through World War I, World War II. I mean, this goes way, way back. And so each of them in different segments of history, but we're able to find the strength to carry on and keep going. And so I have their DNA in my body, and I can get through hard times too. And so that's what this gives me. I also have, of course, in here I have my mom's Bible, which also has been kind of worn out. That gives me an amazing amount of strength as well. Another thing, let's see what I have in here. Oh, I love this. This is, we all have our baggage. This is my luggage tag. And I love this because it just reminds me there are no perfect people. There are a lot of people who like to present like they're perfect, but we all know that's not even close to reality. We all have our scars and our wounds and the things we've been through. And, I just saw in here as well, this kind of goes with this, I think. This is a poem. It's just a short little poem from one of my favorite Instagram poets. And it says, "You are worn and cracked and dented. And that is okay, because I have never heard of a clean and shiny sword that won a war." That's actually written by Aaron Van Buren. And what I love about this is, for the longest time in my life, I tried to hide my pain. I tried to hide my scars. I tried to hide my imperfections and my flaws from the world. And all that did was literally destroy me. It caused me to run from the truth and the trauma that I had endured my entire childhood, and trying to hide that and trying to get away from that. The things I ran to hurt me as much as the things I was running from. And after many addictions and a lot of self-destruction, I learned to embrace all of the things I had tried my entire life to hide. And there's incredible peace in that. And I can tell you, I say this all the time on my social media, these are the people I want on my team. I don't want the people who pretend to be perfect. I don't want the people who act like they've never been through anything and never survived anything and that they don't have imperfections. I want the people, the survivors. I want the people who've walked through fire. I want the people who didn't know if they would make it one more day. I want those people on my team. I want the people with the dented swords, and I want the people who've survived something. Those are the people I fight for, and those are the people I want fighting for me. And so, when you think about going into battle, nobody ever would want a general or a commander who'd never seen a battle or won a battle or fought through something and lost a lot of battles, but learned the lessons from that and adjusted going forward. So this speaks a lot to me. And usually in our darkest days, we focus on our mistakes and the things we've lost and the problems we've created for ourselves, or the heartbreak that has happened because of some mistakes, or whatever our situation is. But that always reminds me that this is who I am. And to try to hide that from the world doesn't help anybody. My truth can help somebody. And so that really helps me focus on that. And that kind of comes down to this that is in my box. It is scripture. And my friend Connie Stapleton sent me this. She's a doctor. She's an expert on addiction. And it says, I'm doing a great work and cannot come down. It's from the scripture Nehemiah. And people will try to get you to come away from your purpose. People will try to sabotage you. People will lie to you to try to destroy you. And you just have to stay focused on what your purpose is. And that's why I love this. And I keep this where I can see it all the time. So that's in my box. I also have, this is my grandma, Nani. This is her watch. And this was my grandpa's pocket watch. And I love these things because it just reminds me that time doesn't stand still for anybody. And regardless of what we're going through, regardless of what seems insurmountable, what seems as though it will never get better, the world keeps moving, time keeps going. And we aren't promised tomorrow. And as much as we feel sometimes like, I don't care if I see tomorrow. I know I felt that way so many times. I've been in such dark places that literally I would pray to God, just ask him to let me die. And of course, those were very unhealthy thoughts. And that was a mind trapped in a spiral of darkness and pain. And as I worked my way through recovery and healing, I realized how precious time is. And the Kobe Bryant helicopter crash and all the people who lost their lives that day, those were lives interrupted. Those were people in the middle of the day. Those were people who were probably saying, tonight I'm going to have this for dinner. I'm going to go to this party this weekend. And it never happened. And it's so easy to forget the fact that we aren't promised tomorrow. So these remind me of that time is precious and we need to hold on to the time that we have and appreciate it and let the people we love know that we love them and try our best every day to live in the hope that with time we can heal. And it reminds me too that time doesn't heal anything. It doesn't. We can go through 40 years and still not have healed. That's exactly what happened in my life. And so until I chose to dig into that pain and that trauma and actively heal from it, I was just going to keep repeating the same mistakes and going through the same darkness and having all of the same unhealthy self-destructive behaviors. So I love to keep these close because it reminds me about time. I keep, of course, my mother's signature in here. My mom died 10 years ago, and I like to always just remember seeing her handwriting really, really helps me and helps me remember who raised me. That's one thing that I also have in here. Let me find it. I know I saw it earlier. Here it is. And this is my Nani. For those of you who read my book, you know how important Nani was to me. This is her. That's Nani right there. She died in 1993. And I was so close to Nani. Her wisdom and her wit is laced throughout my entire book. And there's a reason I was so close to Nani. Yes, she was an amazing grandmother, but more than that, this is a story that I haven't shared before. The night I was born, my parents were in a head-on collision, and my father was in intensive care. His heart had been damaged in the crash, and my mother was 7 months pregnant with me. So my mom was sitting in intensive care with my dad and trying to, be present with him, and her water broke. So I was born premature, and my father was so injured in the accident, he couldn't work. I had older brothers. So we all went home to live with my grandparents until everybody could be rehabilitated and heal and could go back to work. And so we lived with them. The first year of my life, we lived with Nani and my grandpa as well. And so I was just extremely connected to her and attached to her, just as if she was my mom, and she was amazing. I'll tell you a little story about Nani. Her and my grandpa, who we called Pappy, married in 1929. And my grandpa's family didn't want him to marry Nani because they said she laughed too much and she wore too much red. And funnily enough, that was all the things that he loved about her. That's the things that made him fall in love and stay in love, is that she was a woman ahead of her time. And I write a lot about her in You Have Such a Pretty Face. She's also in my next book, which I'm finishing now, The Homecoming Queen of Crazy Town. And my third book, that title's already registered, and it is Any Color as Long as It's Red. And that's something Nani used to say all the time. She would say, I remember we were shopping one day at a department store, and they had some necklaces, and she wanted a necklace, and, typical necklace that lots of grandmas wear. They had like it in red beads, white beads, blue beads. And the lady asked her, well, which color did you want? And Nani said, oh, honey, any color, as long as it's red. That was Nani's big thing. And that's the title of my third book, Any Color, as Long as It's Red. And so this woman has lived through the Great Depression. She lived through Pearl Harbor. She lived through those wars and battles, and she fought and she fought, and she's full of strength. And so her driver's license kind of reminds me that know what drives you. Know whose DNA you have in your veins. Know how hard people before you fought, and you can keep fighting too. And so I love that I have her driver's license. And I have a bracelet in here. Let me find, I just saw it. Here's the card that goes with it. This little turquoise bracelet is from my beautiful friend, Allie, and she's a powerhouse of strength and love and loyalty. She gave me this bracelet a few years back, and turquoise actually represents emotional awareness and connecting to your higher self. It really is something that enhances friendships and love, loyalty, everything. And so I love this little bracelet that she gave me. I wear it all the time. And so it's in my Miss Geyser Gray box. I have a picture of my mom and my stepdad in here. My biological dad actually died when I was 9, as his heart never did fully heal following the car crash. And so 9 years later, just repeated problems with his heart. He died of a heart attack at 41. So this is my mom and my stepdad, and they were married for 35 years and just amazing people. I miss them both. They're both gone now. And I just remember the strength. I saw them go through a lot of difficult times. And this woman right here was a powerhouse of strength. I mean, just crazy strong. And so her and my Nani, I just derive so much strength from them. And I just think, what would they do? Like, what would they do? I know they're with me. I know they're watching down over me. And that gives me an incredible amount of strength. So then I have in here a note, actually, that my friend Laura, when she first read my book, she met me actually at the conference where we released my book. And we became great, great, great friends. She's like a sister to me. And she actually gave me a poem that I'll have to dig it out. It's a little lower here. And it's artwork. I've never put it up because I want it to stay perfect. But what it says on here, it's beautiful. Um, it says, once there was a girl who wanted to change the world. At first, she thought it'd be easy because if everyone could see how beautiful it'd be, it'd take about a minute. But all the people she talked to were too busy to stop and listen. So she went off and did beautiful things all on her own. And pretty soon people were stopping and asking if they could come along and do that too. And that's how she figured out how worlds change. And so she gave me that. She sent this to me, and I really should. It's by Brian Andreas. And I really, really should frame this and put it up, but I love it. Like I keep it close in my When Skies Are Gray box because it just means so much to me and I don't want it to get messed up. And, but the card she wrote with it really, really mattered to me too. And the card said, we went to a retreat together and she said she didn't want to bring it there, but she said, I wanted you to read it, feel it, and know it is exactly you on this journey, my friend. They will line up to have the magic you have. They just have to discover you, my beautiful friend. I love this. I love this so much. And she probably doesn't even know. I kept this card, and on the days when I just think nothing's ever going to turn out right, things aren't going to get easier, like what am I doing? I see this card. This card makes a difference. So you see, I'm going to have all these different things in here, different things from times in my life when I felt really terrible, things that have happened that inspire me. And as we go through life, we acquire these things. And on our darkest days, it's nice to have them all together to be like, I remember this. Like, you never know. Every time I get in this box when I'm having a bad day, it helps me to look at different things because sometimes things work and sometimes other things don't. And this one time I had made a post on social media several years ago, and all it said was, I'm an island. And I meant exactly what it said, that like I'm alone and I feel like I'm just surrounded by water and I'm just alone, floating in the world alone. And funny thing, a friend of mine, she said she was at the salon getting her nails done and she read that. She's like, I wrapped it up and I came straight to your house because she just instinctively knew that I was hurting. And I actually wasn't there when she came, but she left me this note on my door. She didn't have anything in her car to leave a note, but it just said, I was here. I love you always. You mean the world to me. And like, I loved this. I loved this so much. I kept it. I think this is one of those blue things that people clean their windows with. But this just meant the world to me that someone was able to read that. No one else even responded to that. And I didn't think anybody would know what it meant, but she did. And so that meant the world to me. I also have in here, when I go out and speak and do book signings, I hand out these keys to people. I'm big on healing and I'm big on, can you see, like it has a little tiara up there, kind of goes along with the Homecoming Queen of Crazy Town, reclaiming our throne. And I hand these out wherever I speak and remind people to put these wherever they can to remember that the key to happiness is in their hands. And ultimately, we don't want to hand over that power and that control to anyone else. And we have to make decisions that will better our life and that will give us the peace that we deserve. And it's up to us. It's in our hands. And so I hand these out everywhere. And one lady in Canada actually loved this so much. She got it tattooed, like it's right here on her arm, this exact key. And so I tell people, put them on your cork board, put them on your key ring, just put it somewhere you'll see it every day. So when you start to feel overwhelmed, you remember the key to happiness is in your hands. And I put it in my box too, because on some of those days, whether I'm just feeling sorry for myself or I'm having a rough day for whatever reason, I remember like you need to rise up and reclaim the happiness that you fought so hard to find. And so that's why I have this in my box. I have a little tiara that my friend Laura sent me because I am the homecoming queen of Crazy Town. And so this reminds me, like, girl, all of this is just a pathway to your throne. We're all daughters of the king. And we lose sight of that sometimes. We have to remember that if we don't see our worth, no one else will either. And we're all imperfect. We've all got flaws. We've all been through things. We've all made mistakes. We all have regrets, but we have to push forward and keep doing our very best every day. So this little tiara that she sent me, and it's sparkly. You guys all know I'm about the bling. I love that. I keep that in here. I have a statue of my Rottweiler because I'm a big Rottweiler lover. I've had about 6 or 7 of them now. And, you know, when I come home, I have 2 now. When I come home, my dogs never, ever just look up like, oh, you? Oh, no. They're always happy to see me. They come charging at the door. I mean, they're the most disobedient dogs ever, but that's my fault. But they are the biggest loves, and they're loyal and fiercely protective and just the best dogs ever. Those dogs have absorbed more tears than even that stuffed bear has. And so I just remember the pureness and the love of my animals. And if I wasn't here, who would take care of them? No one's going to love them like I did. So I always keep one of them in my When Skies Are Gray box to remind me of that. When I was in Sedona in treatment, I bought this rose quartz, and you know, it's all about giving personal power and strength, and it's quite beautiful. It's actually pink, kind of looks white on here, but I've always kept it close to my bed, and I hold on to it to try to just remind myself to be centered and to focus on the power and the strength that God gives me, and to heal and to keep moving forward. So I love that. I'm not real big on all this stuff. I can't tell you everything every stone means, but I do know that when I was in Sedona, I saw this and I just loved it. And so I've kept it with me ever since then. Here's a couple more things in my box. Beautiful disaster, and it says right down here, perfect, or it says perfectly imperfect up here, and little type down there, it says, hating me won't make you pretty. Like, I love, this is actually a clothing line, and I've written a blog for them. They have great clothing. They're all about our imperfections. They're all about embracing our scars and our imperfection, and about not hating on each other. Like, saying terrible things about other people says so much more about you than it does them. And so just be the best you can be. Don't worry about saying something about other people. So I love them. And I love these. So I keep these in there to remind myself. So I love that. I have I love this, my David stone. And I got this many years ago. And it's supposed to be a replica of the stone, approximately the same size as the stone that David used to kill Goliath. And on the back, it says, no problem is too big for God to handle. Can you see? I have this thing with me everywhere I go. I actually have a couple of them. I have one in every purse. If there's one of these in my purse, no matter where I go. When I traveled to Sedona to go into treatment, I had this with me. Every court battle that I had this in my hand. Every difficult time, I've just held on to this, because I think we all know it wasn't that David killed Goliath. It was the strength of God through David that killed Goliath. And so I put my trust and hope and faith in God, and he's going to come through for me. And so there's no mountain that's too big for me. And so I always have my David stone. I have several of them. One day I had a really big appointment, and for whatever reason, I couldn't find my David stone. And so Alec, my son, was leaving for college, and he said, here, take mine. He said, so you have one. So I always have that on me. It gives me a lot of faith. Then I have my angel here. For those of you who have read my book, you know that I had an encounter with 2 angels at Universal Studios when my son was about 8. And they protected us. They saved our life. For sure, they saved mine. They protected him. And so in my darkest moments, when I feel like what's going on? Where is God? Why is he not here? There were even dark, dark, dark times in my life when I thought, is God even real? Like, why would God let these things happen over and over? Why would God let me suffer through so much? And in those moments, as soon as I would think, is God even real? Immediately, I would remember the angels at Universal Studio. And I knew without a doubt, the angels exist. And so if the one who created them, if the angels exist, let me back that up. If the angels exist, then certainly the one who created them has to exist too. So, like, this is always a really good reminder for me that the angels are there, and so is God. And while I can't understand everything that happens in my life, I do have faith, and I know that he's got me. So he's gotten me through many, many, many things. And I may have had to walk through fire, but I never walked through it alone. So that's what these remind me of. That's another little angel too that I have. So those are in there. Then I have, I love this guy. This is St. Jude, and he is the patron saint of impossible dreams. And I'm not Catholic, but I know what St. Jude is about. And I know he is working for me. And I like that. I saw this on the baseball movie with, I believe it was Kevin Costner, and his wife got him a necklace of St. Jude and said this was the patron saint of impossible dreams. And so I had to get me one. I couldn't find a necklace, but I did find this little statue. So I keep him there. And I remember that when I get worried about my dreams not coming true or things not working out, that, nothing's impossible with God. So I love St. Jude. I keep him in there too. When I went to Sedona, when I came home, I wrote about this in my book as well. Someone sent me a kintsugi necklace, and kintsugi is the Japanese process of taking broken pottery or vases or whatever and putting the broken pieces back together with gold infused lacquer. And what the Japanese believe is that the healing of the broken places in our lives leaves greater beauty in its wake. And someone sent me this kintsugi necklace. I never did find out who. I thanked them in my book, but I still don't know to this day. And it's a little heart that's been broken and it's kind of hard to see in here, and infused with gold. So I love this, and I keep this in my box to remember that all the places that have been broken in my life, that I can find treasure in the scars. And so I keep that in my box. Then I have, this was just one day I was actually meeting a reporter who was interviewing me about my book at a coffee shop. And while I was waiting on her to show up, I found this little card, and it says, I don't know if you can you see it? First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. And see who said that? Gandhi. And think of everything he went through in his life. And so there'll always be opposition. There'll always be people against you. There will always be weapons formed against you. But keep going, keep fighting, and keep doing what you know is right and living in your purpose. So I had to get this that day because you see it's still in plastic. I had no intention of ever sending it to anybody. It just serves as a reminder for me. There are people who have suffered far worse than I've suffered. It's easy to get focused and think, oh, no one's been through what I've been through. There are people who've been through worse. No matter what you've been through, there are people who've been through worse. And to come out of it and to try to continue to do good for other people is what it's all about. And so that's why this is in my When Skies Are Gray box. So I also I do have this. A friend gave me this bracelet, and it says, I want to be the girl with the most cake. We all know I'm about white cake batter. And so I just like this. It makes me smile. It's just a lighthearted thing, but it made me laugh when she sent it to me. And so I would keep that in there. I have many, many more things in here that here's one I'll share. It's a heart. Can you see? Am I too? That's got a Band-Aid on it. And that's because I have the heart of a survivor. And I love that. I'm my little Band-Aid. Sometimes the light is kind of hard. But anyway, so I keep that in there to remind myself that I survived a lot. and I'll keep surviving and I'll get through, and my heart can heal, and it's bandaged and it's getting better every day. So this reminds me of that. I've had this a long time. I have in here this has been, my son Alec made me this little cross, and he was in first grade, I think. And he glued all these little shells on here. And of course, a lot of them have been lost over the years, but it's just the beauty of it. And it has his little name written on the back. And it just reminds me that we all have our crosses to bear, but we get through it. And I get through so much because of the strength God gives me and because of my faith. So this reminds me to have hope. You know, I say in my book that I believe hope stands for hold on, pain ends. And just like I can share here, this bracelet I have on, I'll just take it off and show you. It says hope. It's inlaid with crystals. And I wear it all the time just to remind me, if I have a bad day, hold on, pain ends, things get better. And there's never been a storm in the history of man that didn't end. So I'll get through it. Then I also have, what else should I share? I have so much stuff. This is pretty powerful for me. My friend Julie, I had shared with her once how dark of a place I was in the past, and that I just didn't know if I wanted to keep going or not. And that day at church, she had asked her church to pray for me, and she came by, and the children in their little Bible study class made this for me. And it says, have faith. And it talks about, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, nothing is impossible for you. And I love this. So it really helped me through that. It's just the cutest little thing. And it was just made with the purity and love and innocence of children. And so it gives me hope. It gives me a lot of inspiration on the hardest days. So that's in my box. I have a lot more things in here. I have a lot of stuff, but I'm not going to go through all of them. These are just some of the things that really mattered to me, that really really makes a difference for me. And I love, my son actually gave me a puzzle piece. And I love this. I'm trying to find it. I have it in a little Ziploc bag here. And see this little, it's just a little puzzle piece. Right. The picture would never be whole. And I love that. Like, it touched my heart and my soul. And so the last thing I'll share out of my box is a sign I got several years ago. And it says, good people don't go to heaven, forgiven sinners do. So it's easy to get caught up and focus on our mistakes and think, oh, like nothing will ever get better. And I've made all these mistakes and I can't make a difference in my life. I can't. So not true. So not true. And so I love to keep that. I had it up in my closet for many years, and now I keep it in my Skies Are Gray box, because it just reminds me. It just reminds me that everybody makes mistakes. And I have this little tiny change purse in here that says you were created to make a difference, that a friend gave me. And I love that too. So I'm not going to go through anything else. I've shared quite a bit here with you guys today. And I just hope that you will make your own box and start to put things in there that inspire and help you to find your way on dark days, because the bottom line is we all have them. We all have times and days that can really snowball emotionally and make us really want to give up. And when we start focusing on the darkness, it's hard to see the glimmer of hope. So these things in this box always remind me. And I always know I'll see something and I think, I need to get that. I need to put that in my When Skies Are Gray box. And so, this is a great activity also that you can do. You can make someone else a When Skies Are Gray box, and you can just put one or two things in there. Like the way that my friend wrote me a note, and maybe you could get somebody who's going through a hard time a hope bracelet and put it inside and make them a When Skies Are Gray box and put a pretty cover on it and write them a little card about believing and that pain will end and that hope stands for hold on, pain ends, and start them out with a box and explain the purpose of a When Skies Are Gray box. And then they can start putting items in it that matter to them. It's a beautiful gift to give for someone and to let them know you'll always be there for them. So there's many, many ways to approach it. And I hope you guys have enjoyed the idea. I hope by sharing a lot of the things that are in my box, it gives you some ideas and some things that might work for yours. And, I have things from when I was just a little girl. I received this with my first Bible, and this was in 1975. And from my neighbor, and it says Jesus was kind, and it has a little scripture on the back. And this is just like from I don't know, probably a little tiny piece of like cardstock. But I've had it all these years. So it's never too young to start having your kids make a When Skies Are Gray box. And of course, their things will be totally different at that age. But if you sit down and you ask them what things cheer you up, like when you feel sad, what things make you feel better, and make their little boxes with them and talk through it and have them put ideas and things in there. And as they get older and they mature and they grow up, different things will matter. And I'm just like with me and my grandmother's driver's license and different things. I love that I have those items to hold on to give me strength. And as I've grown and matured as a woman and healed and gone through recovery, those things took on different meaning. And so I just really think it's an incredibly powerful, powerful thing you can do for yourself or for someone else. And even a great thing you can do with your kids when they're little or older, just to do together. And the purpose of it and the point of it is what really matters, because there will be days in our lives. And for some of you, it could be 30 years from now. If you're 16, it could be when you're 40. I mean, it could be whenever, but you have those days and then you realize, oh, like I'm really drawing strength from these items. And so, I think that it's something that I just wanted to share because it's gotten me through so many difficult times. So I'm messing with this hope bracelet. Sorry. Okay. So I'm going to shut this off now. And I hope you guys will post pictures of your box, tag me in it, and I will add it to my social media stories. And absolutely, I hope you guys find some meaning in it, and I would love to see your boxes. So I'm going to share and post some pictures of items and kind of give a description of them throughout the week, and to give people an idea too, who maybe don't watch the whole video. And so please make your boxes, tag me in it. My Facebook is Kelly Gunter. My Instagram is my Instagram is @GunterKelly, and my Kelly is EYKELLEY. So find me on social media, tag me in those pics. I'd love to see. You guys might give me some ideas that I think I need one of those in my box. So let's all stick together. Let's fight for each other. And I hope you guys have an amazing day.